I'm getting itchy. I'm getting antsy for animals again. The first step was making a reprehensible liquid, and we've done that. Goodness, that's that's foul. You're stuck on the Yosted, Dad, right?
Well, in a manner of speaking, I guess.
They're doing some line work in front of the property.
Right, and I imagine you'll show some footage.
Yes,
of
and
that.
there's just a giant trench moat keeping you in. Now, the thing is that they haven't gotten to my property yet, and I don't think they will go over my property, which is over there. I think they're stopping like right there in the middle of our pasture. So if Dad really needs to leave, you can go out
I could take off through the pasture.
Yeah.
But they do have one of those really large metal plates.
So they're going to put a plate down.
They're gonna set it up over the trench, that ditch. So we'll be able to get out of here.
Nice. It's just funny thinking that you're trapped on the homestead.
I'm driving the truck down the drive. Now, of course, we've known that they're working on replacing some supply lines, some water lines. We've known that for quite some time. We just didn't know it was going to hit today.
Yeah.
So I'm driving down I'm glad I stopped when I did.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty ugly.
Just
whole front of the truck
right into the trench there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully they'll have that plate up soon. Hi there, folks. Welcome back to the Yosted. As Dad indicated, we have some work being done on the kind of the rural road that we're on. There's some new lines being put in. And so not only does that trap us in the Yosted, not really, he'll be able to get out like he was talking about, but it is blocking off his driveway. But you'll also be hearing the assorted sounds of construction during the duration of this video. So I apologize for that. It's kind of interesting. Like I said, we're in a rural area, but they are putting in some new water line. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects our water supply. We're actually on a water line. Nana Jana's house is on a well. We are on a water line. So I'm pretty sure it will hopefully make our pressure better. Eventually, we'd like to get on a well as well, find a spring on the property. But for now, that's what we've been using, and it's been working out fine. We run it through our water through a Berkey filter, but it's worked just fine for us. Anyways, a couple of things I wanted to talk with you guys about today and take you around as I do some chores here on the homestead. But like I was saying, I did want to apologize for the noise that you'll hear in the background as I go about my video today. The first thing I wanted to address was, yes, the continuing saga of the squash bugs. We've given up on trying to contain them. We're just letting them do what they're going to do. This is what defeat looks like. Here's the zucchini bed, what remains of the zucchini bed. And we were able to get a lot of zucchinis from it. The cucumbers are on their way out. I think the squash bugs have moved on to the cucumbers. We're still able to get a lot of cucumbers from it. We're still harvesting cucumbers. And then, of course, the yellow squash over here, which is still hanging on pretty strong, and we're actually getting a pretty good harvest of actual yellow squash from this still. So I've been reading about succession planting, where you just accept your fate that, the squash bugs are going to do what they're going to do. And so you take this bed and you do something else with it after the squash has run its course. Whether that's more squash, which I don't think would be advisable, I think the squash bugs would just destroy it immediately, or something else, which is what I'll look into, is something I've got to talk about with Holly, what we want to do with these beds after the squash has run its course. Everything else is looking great. I'm not going to show you guys the tomatoes and the sweet potatoes and the okra and the peppers. All of that's doing really well. The greens, as you can see, if they're not bolting out, they're actually doing really well. It's really hot, but we might do another run of greens. This isn't the most ideal season for greens planting, but a lot of very hardy greens like the tatsoi will do just fine. So we've actually started, let me show you guys. So the okra and the collards over here is doing just gangbusters, and we'd still eat a lot of this stuff, and it's doing just great. But the arugula has long ago bolted out, so we started clearing out some space in the arugula bed. We're probably going to clear out these mustard greens and lettuce and the tatsoi, and it's beautiful, rich compost down here. And we're probably going to just do another run of greens, maybe with some shade cloth on top. Just keep the greens going because we use greens, we eat greens a ton. But yeah, so that's kind of a quick garden update for you guys. Also, I'm not sure if you guys remember the comfrey tea that we mentioned a few weeks back. We loaded these 5-gallon buckets with comfrey leaves, filled it with water, put the lids on, and let time and nature turn the batch inside into disgustingness. We're going to open them up and see how things look, but the hope is that they're foul, that it stinks, that it's gross, that it's soupy, that it's a concoction of nastiness. And so I'm actually going to open these guys up and see what we're looking at here and smelling. Oh yeah, goodness, that's that's foul. That is foul. That's what you want it to be. So the idea behind comfrey tea is, oh hey Charlie, what do you think, bud? Did you catch a whiff of that? I apologize to you, my furry friend. The idea behind comfrey tea is that this is just like liquid compost, essentially. I'm gonna stir this up. Oh, there's mold on it. It's bubbling. This is fermented nastiness. Oof. Oh yeah. Oof. So the idea is that this is liquid compost, essentially a few steps away from something like just straight up manure. And so I'm going to probably put this on our tomatoes. Not right now. Oof, not right now, but as the sun lowers in the sky, so it won't get all evaporated very quickly. I'm going to wait till the sun's lower. It's not as hot. This stuff won't evaporate. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on to the tomato plants. And I might even dilute it with some water just to bring down the potency of it a little bit. But boy, oh boy, this stuff is foul. But if what we've read is true, this stuff is magical for your plants. As much as humans are disgusted by the scent and the look of this stuff, plants love it, or so I've been told. So I'm going to give this a stir. I'm also going to check this one here. Charlie's over there sneezing. He's probably just disgusted by it. Oh yeah, same deal, man. Just utter revulsion at the scent of it. But the plants should love it, so we will test this stuff out tonight. I'll sprinkle it on my tomato plants, maybe our okra plants, and potentially our peppers as well. The squash plants we've already resigned ourselves to failure and defeat on those, so I won't even waste it on the squash plants. But I'll put this stuff on the tomatoes, the okra, the peppers, maybe some other things. Not the greens, because we eat those directly. But yeah, let's see how this works. The experiment, the science experiment of creating comfrey tea. The first step was making a reprehensible liquid, and we've done that. So I'll put this on, and we'll see how the tomato plants do in the next few weeks. Ugh. Black oil sunflower seed has been magical for our birds in terms of their laying output, how many eggs they push out. Ever since we started giving this black oil sunflower seed to our chickens, their output shot through the roof. Now, granted, that may have something to do with the season. We started giving this to them around the springtime, and well, that's when they started laying more. That might be a seasonal thing, but I tend to think that there's something to the value of the black oil sunflower seed that we give them. We also give them this stuff. We let them free range on oyster shells, as well as their own shells that will crunch up and Holly will bake them. So we give them a bunch of different things to kind of encourage their egg production. But out of all the things I've done, this stuff seems to be some of the most effective. A commenter left a comment, I can't remember when, that suggested I actually put this stuff in water and let the seeds sprout. I might experiment and I might try. I think that might give the chickens more of an appetite for it if it's actually sprouting little things. But they also like to eat it straight up. So I'm going to take a couple of scoops of this and give it to our feathered friends, because it really seems to help their laying. Let's give it to them. I'll give him a few more. While I'm in the chicken run, check out our buddy Conan, the rooster. I'll admit there were a few points in the previous few weeks where I wondered if we really had a rooster because we haven't heard any crowing yet. Remember, he was born in March, so he's not quite at the point where we'd expect him to crow anyways. But there was part of me that was expecting to hear the cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning, and I haven't heard it yet. And so I was like, I wonder if he's really a rooster or if we've got a hen. This guy's a rooster. Check out the tail feathers that are starting to come in on this guy. Like, that's a beautiful looking rooster here. In addition, Conan he's definitely not being hassled by any of the hens. Like, they stay out of his way, they respect him. He marches around, he eats when he wants to eat. Normally with hens, there's a pecking order. Anyone that has kept chickens knows all about the pecking order. And newer birds always get the last pickings when it comes to like meal times and being bossed around and bullied by the other chickens. Not the case with Conan. There's clearly a different dynamic at play with Conan. He always gets to eat first. He's never hassled by the other hens. And he's starting to grow out, I don't know if you can see it from here, but he's starting to grow out little buds at the back of his legs, which seem to be the beginning of spurs. And spurs are something that roosters grow on the back of their legs. They're very sharp. Fighter, peace be upon him, he had some crazy sharp spurs that he would fling at us whenever he wanted to fight us. But we've got ourselves a rooster. I'd imagine any day now he'll start actually crowing at us. But still haven't heard that first crow, but he's starting to look really pretty. Now, he's a Rhode Island red rooster, and those of you that watch the channel know that our preferred laying hen is Rhode Island Red. So we've slowly, as we go through new batches of chicks every few months, we've just been getting Rhode Island Reds. There will probably come a point in the future where that's the only chicken we have for laying is Rhode Island Reds. So Rhode Island Red, Rhode Island Red, Rhode Island Red, Rhode Island Red, turkeys. There's a couple of other ones. Yeah, there's some Rhode Island Reds over there. Buff Orpingtons. So we've got the classic Buff Orpington, and they lay pretty good. We've got this baby bird right here. I don't even know what she is, but she's really pretty. We've got a couple of other breeds, but by far we prefer the Rhode Island Reds. They're great at laying. They're very proficient or prolific in terms of their egg output, and they're hardy. We've never had a Rhode Island Red get sick on us, ever. In terms of laying birds, we're going to stick with the Rhode Island Reds, and I'm glad we've got a rooster, right? So I have somewhat of a confession to make. I'm getting itchy. I'm getting antsy for animals again. Holly and I made the conscious decision to only have poultry for the first year of Henry's life, after the pigs had been processed, of course. We processed the pigs when Henry was, 4 or 5 months old. I'd have to go back and check. But after the pigs, we made that decision to say, hey, we're not going to do any large livestock animals, including things like sheep, until Henry's a little bit older, probably until he's a bit over 1 year old. And I got to tell you, yes, we've just stuck to pretty much 2 animals here in the homestead, laying chickens and meat turkeys. That's it. We were briefly considered doing a run of meat chickens, but a couple of things came up. We've got one animal that our son that's enough to take care of for right now, especially when he's this age. So we made that decision. We made that conscious decision. We're not going to do large critters, at least till he's a little bit older, probably until he's walking around. And, people have asked me, where are you doing pigs again? Are you doing sheep? You had talked about doing sheep. Are you going to be doing them? What's your plan with livestock? And like I said, I'm starting to miss animal husbandry. I'm starting to miss having large animals around. Our pork, we still have quite a bit of pork left in the freezer, but as it starts to dwindle away, I'm starting to get to the point where I was like, maybe we should start thinking about getting pigs again. So between pigs and sheep, the idea of having livestock is calling me again. But I know for the good of what we're doing in this particular chapter in our lives, we just don't want to have that added stress of having large livestock around, another set of pigs or even things like sheep, until we've got a bit more of a handle on parenthood and little Henry's starting to walk around and is a little bit more independent. Right now it's the chickens and the turkeys and the garden and maintenance mode here in the homestead. And that's enough for us at the moment because, like I said, Henry is quite the handful. We're starting to think ahead. especially in terms of meat. I've mentioned before here on the channel how we're really keenly interested in the idea of sheep. I know the Kramers do sheep to great effect, and we're thinking about maybe hopping on board that bandwagon. I've talked a little bit about getting back into pigs as well. That breed that we had, you had to let them grow up to at least a year old. I think if we do pigs again, we're gonna go with a breed that you maybe only have to do 6 months before they're ready to be processed. Something to talk about, but my mind is spinning, guys. Like I'm thinking about animals again. I'm thinking really hard about, okay, let's get back into livestock. It's something I've been thinking a lot about. And so as we start to get closer to that point where livestock becomes a valid option again, I'm starting to plan out pastures in my head, fencing in my mind. I'm starting to think about where we'll procure different types of animals from. But for those of you that asked, what's the plan with your livestock? That's what the plan is. It's gonna be a few months before we jump into a new animal, probably sheep. But it's something I'm thinking about all the time. And like I said, I'm getting very antsy about it. All right, so we're gonna check on the status of the driveway to see if my parents have ingress and egress options, and I think they do. I think in addition to the plate, they may have actually filled it up, so let's go check it out. All filled in. Good. Well, thanks for hanging out with me again today, yo folks. I always feel so privileged that I get to share kind of my weekly rambling thoughts on life on a homestead through ups and downs, busy times and not so busy times. I love that you guys get to tag along and see how that journey unfolds. Until we see you again next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.